Sorry, guys, I got some really slow internet here today, but this is Rick Moore, co-founder at Bidpoint, and I want to thank you for being on the call here today. We're going to talk about the compensation plan. I'll be referring to the document that's actually at bidpointtraining.com, and within bidpointtraining.com, you go to the commission tab, and after the commission tab, you'll see a video that Mike Healy put together. And under where the video is titled How to Earn Commissions, underneath that video, you will see a commission PDF that you click on the image to see the document that I'm referring to. So once again, you got to register at bidpointtraining.com. It is not the same login as your bidpoint.net. You've got to create a new login for that. If you haven't done it already, it's also how you get on the email list. So we'll be referring to that document and hopefully shedding some light on how the commission plan works. So I'm kind of headed to that document now. And like a lot of these kinds of documents and commission plans, there's a disclaimer on there. Commission examples for training purposes only. Actual commissions will vary, as you would expect. No guarantees of income are implied. See commission PDF for complete details, which we're about to do. So we're kind of headed into that. The basis of the Bidpoint commission plan is that you as an agent, without any specific qualifier, are going to earn 60% of the commission that comes in on any deal that you write personally, that you originate with Bidpoint. Whether that deal is energy, whether that deal is waste, or whether that deal is one of our payment programs, you're going to earn 60% of the deal. No hoops to jump through or anything like that, because in our view, if you're writing deals, you're entitled to a certain percentage, and you went through a certain amount of work to make that deal happen. And we feel like there's no need to have qualifiers for that. You just, you're paid to write deals. Pretty transparent, pretty simple. So Avion Energy is the backbone for our company. They have basically taken on, a significant amount of overhead in the exercise, and in order for us to scale up, we need that kind of support. So that's our connection to Avion Energy. Obviously, they're also our energy vendor, and so that works out pretty well. And now they're going to be taking on a deeper role with Avion Business Services, which was created to give us the opportunity to bring some admin people in between the Bidpoint advisors and the specific vendors. The idea is that you can focus on more lead gen kind of activity and keep your engagement as light as possible. We don't want you managing paperwork after the initial, as much as we want to give you an opportunity to get a deal in and then move on, and trust that the Avion process, they'll take care of following up with the vendors, including internally. And so, we know from history that will just be a much more efficient process. So I want to kind of start out with that. So start talking about energy. You're in 60% of Bidpoint's commissions. There's a couple things going on in energy now. Avion is going through and renegotiating a lot of our contracts with the suppliers, and we've got 70-plus suppliers across the country. We could have more if we could handle them. There's more that want to be our suppliers that we haven't taken on yet. But we have the top 30 suppliers in North America as part of our group, and because of this, we can offer best pricing. But we've gone back to the process, and it's an ongoing process of renegotiating contracts with the suppliers. What's going to end up happening, there's going to be more money in the front of contracts for Bidpoint advisors moving forward as we develop that through the supplier network. What that means is if you had a client that was going to pay you $1,000 a month over a 3-year contract, it's possible now where a lot of that money will be front-loaded in that contract, and once the supplier, once everything's gone through the process and the deal is flowing and the supplier's been paid and they in turn pay us to pay you, a lot of that money, 6 months, sometimes a year, is of the first year of that contract can be paid in more of a lump sum, and we'll be passing that on to you. So it would have been a $1,200 commission, maybe it could be $12,000. So There can be a significant upfront component in energy. There'll probably be a little bit of a holdback on that in those examples, 10% or so, I would guess. You're going to get it as it comes, but that's just to protect for any clawback. But in any case, let's just say there was round numbers. It was going to be $1,200 a month, and now probably more like at least $10,000. So whatever the number happens to be, bigger or smaller. Primarily that's on electricity, but sometimes on bigger gas deals too. So that's just a little caveat to know that in energy you can get to a pretty significant check. I've seen some whoppers in my time in energy. I've worked with people in the past in other companies where a nice five-figure check was fairly commonplace, and I think who couldn't use that for the holidays, right? So anyway. There's some things coming with energy, and as we're able to share more specifics, probably those specifics will be in the form of stories. We've got a few bigger deals that have come recently through Bidpoint, and we're hoping those turn into those kind of stories. So anyway, be on the lookout. Those can be some pretty big deals out there. I know some people on the phone are in the middle of some of those. On the waste side, we also pay out 60% of the deal, and the other thing I want to say too about back to Bidpoint training is that Mike Healy talks about the commissions at Bidpoint training a little bit more illustrative and comparing in deals. And the other place where you can see the math comparison, promoterswanted.com, our kind of generic site, promoterswanted.com kind of talks about size of deals and relative commissions. While it's an inexact science, those are pretty good guidelines for you to be able to use to have, just to have an expectation of what your commissions might be. And on any of the commissions that we pay out to Bidpoint, you see the usage as well as the payout. So you can, once you have a deal on the books, you can get a feel for what that deal is going to pay. And the great news about all these deals is that they're typically on the books for a long time, including renewals. Just have to stay active and in good standing, and there's not a lot of rules here. In fact, the only rule is Bidpoint active and qualified advisors maintain that status by personally originating an accepted qualified deal yearly from their enrollment date. So it's just do a deal a year. Headed into the next step of this, if you don't worry if you're not following the document now. This can give you some talking points later. Go back to the document, and you'll see the illustration of some of the things that I'm talking about here. How do you qualify for commissions? There's only one rule to be qualified. You've got one calendar year from your enrollment date to meet the qualifying standard of at least one deal of any of our available services, which currently are energy, waste, and merchant processing, that you personally originated that meets this posted qualifying standard. Your qualifying deal must be in an accepted or active status on or before your one-year enrollment anniversary. This is an ongoing, every year, by your enrollment anniversary qualification. Study this carefully when you get a chance to look at it. On the energy side, you've got the qualifying deal is 25,000 kilowatts or 2,500 therms monthly average. That's a qualifying energy deal. A qualifying waste deal, as you probably know if you've looked at the documents, is a $500 monthly spend. The reason for that is in order to find savings in waste, it's got to be a certain size deal to submit, and that's the minimum size deal we're looking for. On the merchant services side, $50,000 in monthly processing volume is considered a qualifying deal. Not a huge piece of business, and I think you may see some sliding up or down these numbers. We're not trying to make it we're trying to make it in the range of where that size deal would make sense to write because it would pay at least enough commission to be worth doing. It's more set up for that, and also not to waste the time of our vendors on smaller deals. Know this, we can probably write anything, but we don't want to spend all day writing photomats or nail salons. Not that those aren't good businesses, but bigger is always better in this business. Let's see here. Okay. Advisor commissions, as I talked about, it's 60% for all modalities. What I want to do is kind of get into the team building, building your referral network and how that works. There's some power in this plan when it comes to the matching bonus that you can receive, and it's a generational matching bonus, or can be, if you build that kind of a team. So what it is the maximum depth in a group that you can build is 4 levels away from you. So if you personally bring somebody to Bidpoint and they write a deal and you're qualified for that deal, I want to bear in mind, if in a situation where you and a person you brought kind of joined around the same time, you have that first year to write a deal. If you haven't written a deal yet, you're still going to get paid up until your anniversary. We're going to give you that time to go figure it out. We don't want you holding back on bringing people in. We want you to be able to get out there and run a little bit. And so bear in mind that you don't have to come out of the gate having written a deal in order to bring other people. That's an important component. And then as we move forward in the process, as you start another leg of business, in other words, let's just say you brought somebody in. Let's say that person didn't do anything, but they brought somebody who did. That still counts as a qualifier for you. Because each time you start a leg of business, we want to reward you for that. Whether or not the person you brought did anything, that a qualification could happen 50 levels down in that leg. It doesn't matter. That's going to qualify you for additional depth in all of your other business. Say, for instance, your first person you brought in a person who brought in a person who brought in a person who did something and wrote a big deal. Well, you can go wider in your organization to catch up to that deal. It doesn't matter when that went on the books. You can pedal ahead and catch that a little bit, if you will. So we tried to make this as friendly as possible, but I will tell you, frankly, what we're avoiding is people stacking deals where they go mother, sister, aunt, cousin, pet deal. And because if we allowed that to happen, we couldn't pay out what we pay out. Because if you look at a 10% match after 60% payout, 10% of 60 is actually 6. So you go 6, 6, 6, 6. 4 levels of 6 is 24 plus 60. That's an 84% payout. And, for us to go through this exercise, we got to eat too. Hope that makes a little sense to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up. We haven't talked about these things in a long time. I know there might be some decent questions that people may have. If I can get my internet to respond here, I'm going to open up for potential answers to potential questions. So bear with me. I'm trying to get this line to open here. So guys, why don't we just kind of begin at the end here and have some questions regarding the commission plan, or any questions you might have about any specifics, and we'll see what we can do to answer them.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Awesome. So if we actually wrote an electricity sale today, what would be the expected payout time of that commission?
Great question. So here's the process. So you write the deal. So first you submit it, right? Then it gets accepted. And then if you haven't been through the process yet, what happens is, I'm sorry, who am I speaking to?
This is Sue Pellegrino.
Hey, Sue.
Hey.
And what part of the country are you in?
I'm in Florida.
Okay. All right. So what's going to happen is you submit the deal and say the deal's accepted, right? And the way that we close these deals is you get a pricing presentation from the internal broker at Avion at the same time as the client gets it. So you get a copy at the same time the client's getting it. So you know when the client got it. And the objective is to close that contract, within 24 hours. So we quickly want to lock down that price. You'd request that the client, choose 2 years, 3 years, whatever it might be, and then they are able to close that price. One of the reasons we can get best pricing is the price isn't good for a month. The price is good for a day, right? And that's an important distinction because people will say, well, I go to other people and they give me the price per month. Well, it's not a very good price if they can. So anyway, so that locks that down. And then that generates a contract that we then submit to the supplier. And let's just say if it was right now, you wrote the deal right now, and we're able to get that done whenever they're let's just say if they were out of contract, it's going to pick up the next time the local utility reads the meter. That might be the middle of next month. Okay. So if that was the middle of next month, then that's when the switch happens. Of course, then the flow starts, and then all that usage has to happen. The bill goes out from the supplier. The client has to pay the bill, and then once the client pays the bill, then the supplier pays Avion, and Avion via us pays you. So that process can be, and I think that process is actually laid out in some of the YouTube videos. I'd have to look again to see the specific one where it is, but you're probably looking at, in all likelihood, it's going to be 90 to 120 days before that pays out. But it's kind of the good news, bad news is once it starts paying out, it's going to continue through the length of that contract, and then usually within 90 days of the end of the contract, there's an opportunity to renew it. And in my experience with energy, and I've been around this for about a decade, you should keep your clients with this program because we're bidding to everybody. So once you get a client, as long as they stay in business, that should keep working for you. So the timeline could be 90 days. In most cases, we're looking at 120 days from the time that they sign the contract, the switch happens, the usage happens, the bill happens, they pay the bill to the supplier, and the supplier then pays us. You kind of see those things have to happen. That's about how long it takes. Well, it's a long time for semi-permanent income. One of the reasons why we went to do some of the renegotiation with what we have is that in the event that it did take that length of time, then you were paid at that point in time, maybe 6 months to a year front-loaded on the payout, then that might be less painful, right?
Okay. And what about for the other services?
Waste is actually fairly quick because what's happening with waste is we're renegotiating a contract. So that same process is, because here's the other thing that can also happen in energy. Sometimes you write those contracts where they're on the end of an existing contract, so it might be even 3 to 6 months out. We had one that we did that was a year out, but it was a huge piece of business, and that person's going to be in pretty good shape for a long time because of it. But on the waste side, we're renegotiating a contract and starting over, so probably more like 90 days on waste. Sometimes it can be as soon as 60.
Okay. And the credit cards?
About probably 60, because you're looking at anything you write. Like I say you closed a deal yesterday, and it was 1 day worth of usage. That's going to take, you're going to go past the next 30 days before CapEx turns around and pays us because they've got to wait to make sure there wasn't a chargeback. So they have to go past the chargeback period before they can pay out on it. So probably 60 days there as well.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else out there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, my name's Bob. I'm from Florida also. I just wondered, as far as the qualifier, let's say, I'm probably not as young as some of these guys, so let's say 5 years down the road, I'm ready to retire, if you will. So I do one deal a year. That's all I'm going to do. Is it just in one of the services?
And I keep any of the services, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that would keep my income coming in?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
And it's also, Bob, it's also to qualify for people that you may have brought in. So, but the thing to remember, why that's important is because they may write a deal before you do. As long as you do something within that year, then you're good.
Oh, so their usage counts, or just their deal counts as part of my deals, I guess, if you will.
What he's saying is, if you're building a team, and if you started today, for example, and you recruited 3 people, and one of your 3 people sold business before you, then you still get credit for them as long as you maintain business within that year. Is that correct?
That's correct. So basically, you could theoretically.
That's actually very awesome. That's the first time that's good.
Yeah, I think because of what we do, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, that's very good.
To me, it doesn't make any sense, because if you didn't do that, people wouldn't recruit anybody until they wrote something.
Sure.
Right. Exactly. You're losing business. That's a very smart move.
So okay. I think, it comes. I got to tell you, everything we did here, guys, myself and Mike Healy in particular, we have quite a bit of experience in this kind of a program.
Yes.
And we've seen the good and the bad of that. And I know, the idea of Bidpoint was make a better mousetrap and just get everything else out of the way and just be about writing business. And you'll see as we continue, I don't think we need any other offerings right now, but I would tell you that, we're going to continue to expand to anything that makes sense, that fits on a business owner's P&L, that pays residual income. And also do some things that, if you pick up a client one way, you can also add to it another way. Or if you may find, the one thing about Florida, because I've got family down there, is Florida is a pretty good way back into the Northeast and the Midwest, right? So from a team building standpoint,
I can't get this on the computer with you.
Little background noise there, guys?
Yeah, a little bit.
Webinar.
Let's see if I can find that to mute it there. Sorry. Let's see it pop up. Let's see it. But anyway, so it's designed to where we can take advantage of those things.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, well.
Hey, Rick, this is Jim.
Yes,
Jim Mazine in Omaha.
Welcome, Omaha.
Hey, well, thanks. So what I'm here, since we're not a deregulated.
Thanks for the College World Series.
That's right. And Warren Buffett and whatever else, I don't know.
Yeah, does that
Kool-Aid actually came from Nebraska, but I'm from Connecticut, so it doesn't matter. But since Nebraska is not a deregulated state for the energy portion of this, so probably what you're saying, the best thing to do is kind of recruit some people that are in those states that do offer energy.
Absolutely. When we started Avion Energy, and when I got involved in the energy business, we weren't in a state where natural gas was available, but not electricity. But if you look at what's going on with Avion Energy right now, hey guys, anybody out there working in the yard or something? Like a little background noise here. But that's what we did. Our strategy was go find people in the East, and go find people in the Midwest, and go find people in Texas, and so that's really kind of how that happened. So we are kind of designed to where you can go expand and build a network. The idea, this compensation plan has been put together with the idea of being productive yourself, and then also building a team. And that it doesn't have to be a huge team. I believe somebody can make a nice income with 8, 10, 12 productive people, and a lot can happen. It's because if you're getting a 10% match on people, and you've got a team of, let's just say you had a team of a dozen people, okay, and it took you a couple of years to develop that dozen people. Those dozen people at a 10% match, it'd be hard for you to keep up with them.
Yeah.
And so that's really what this is. You don't need 1,000 people in this. We don't need 1,000 people as a company in this. No, we need. And we need people. We need to develop people over time that have an expertise, because what we've seen is this: once people write one deal, and sometimes it takes them a while to do it. Once they write one deal, the floodgates open. Absolutely happens every time. We've seen it time and time and time again. In fact, so
it's like
few
winning a
people
scratch-off ticket.
It is. It's so few people write one deal. I mean, a lot of people write zero, and a lot of people write multiple.
Yeah, I come from the energy call center business, so I see multiple deals being written every single day.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, we know that, right? So we know that we go through this process and we create this funnel and we try to get the barriers out of the way to give you an opportunity to build something like this. But we know is once people get started, then it really opens up. You know, because we look at our business now, we've got certainly a lot of people that for whatever reason hadn't really gotten started. We got other people that put on a couple dozen deals. So that's just, if you look at it, it's I'd say it's a 90-10 proposition on our side. We'd like to get 80-20. When we get the 20% productivity on a free enrollment program, we know we've got something. And, you can probably apply those same numbers to your own business. Anybody else out there?
Hey, Rick, it's Betsy. I know that Florida's talking about deregulating next year possibly. Are there other states, and I know Michigan's changing, I guess. Are there other states that you've been hearing might be? I think this was asked before and I've kind of forgotten.
Michigan is deregulated.
Well, Michigan's deregulated for gas and in a limited
and so is
way.
Florida for gas, but I doubt if they'll deregulate for electric next year.
There's no guarantee of something happening next year. I'll just caution you guys, but I would just say that Florida is deregulated for natural gas in a very limited way because Florida's pipeline is not completely developed, et cetera. But there are potential clients down there, and the good news is there's not much competition. So when you do find somebody, you usually can do something about it. As far as what's coming, we hear in Nevada for sure, Arizona, California in a limited way. About 20% of California right now is already deregulated for electricity. It's increasing all the time. They have their quasi-political lobbying thing going on over there. So there's some deregulation there. The same situation in Michigan. So the best thing to do is just check.
There's several states out there that play with that are highly deregulated and they need our help. I wouldn't even bother California.
We have some good clients in California.
New Jersey, New York. Yeah, but there's more red tape out there than calling somebody in New Jersey that's paying over 12 cents and getting them, 10 cents. That's woohoo.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I did work for a company based in New Jersey, so I know something about that. But I want to say this, is that we cast a wide net, and some big things are happening. I can tell you there's something going on right now that will probably triple the size of our company that came through a connection of ours, and that did start in California. It led to Illinois, and so those kind of things happen too. You talk with these people that have multiple locations. When somebody asks you a question, get the best answer you can get, and sometimes by keeping that conversation going on, you find a better way in. And that's the one thing I would suggest to anyone on this call is that pursue everything, right? Keep the conversation going, keep the dialogue open, give them go get a straight answer, and then give them the straight answer. Okay? So if you show yourself as being someone who chases something down and gives them a bit of an education that helps them in any way, that's always going to be positive. Tell them if you can and tell them if you can't, but dig into everything, okay? Because you want to establish a big database, people you can follow up on, and people who know you gave it everything you could, basically. So those are kind of important tenets that I would follow. But as far as I can tell you this, obviously with all the suppliers we're working with, we're going to know well ahead of time. And our business strategy with Bidpoint is to have nationwide offerings. So we've got people in those places. Obviously we're going to have a lot of reps in Florida. We're going to have a lot of reps in California. We're going to have a lot of reps in Texas. And, those are high population states, right? And we're not going to discourage people in those places from joining our team because we know in the end game it's going to pay off. And if you're in those places now, recruit back into the places where you can already do business. And if I was anybody on this telephone right now, I'd be recruiting back into Texas. I'd be recruiting back into New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Illinois. Those are places, forget about where it's coming. Think about where it's good right now. Okay? And so just know that that's coming. We do have a strategy for that. We do stay ahead of it, and we're going to find out well in advance. In fact, if you find out a year in advance that a state's deregulating, you need a team there now. And right now, I would have a team in Nevada. I would have a team in Arizona. I would have a team in California. I would have a team in Michigan. I would have a team in Florida. I will caution this about the Southeast, is that the Southern company might be the most powerful company in our industry, and that's going to be probably the last place to deregulate. But what happens is, as borders get pressure on them from other areas, I know some of this experience is going on in Michigan right now, when you got companies that are across the border that have a competitive disadvantage that keeps business from coming into the state, that political pressure causes deregulation. Okay? I think you'll probably see Indiana as a place that potentially deregulates soon. But I know there's been a lot of talk about Florida. They've tried and failed in the past. We have our ears to the ground in the government affairs world. We know kind of, but it's a crapshoot, really. Nobody really knows. I mean, it's you just see. In fact, even if the vote goes through, as in Nevada, that doesn't mean that's just the beginning of it. And then there's a process after that. But did telecom deregulate everywhere initially? No, but eventually it did, and this is going to follow the same path. There's really no way to stop it. It is going to happen, and it's going to come to everybody on this telephone. But in the meantime, get your 10% match where it's already working. So that'd just be my advice on that. And the states that I rattle off pretty quickly are probably the best. But, you never know. I mean, we have great accounts in Michigan. In fact, the most productive person we have in Avion Energy is in Michigan. By far the largest income earner. Has done everything in that state with just natural gas. Has some massive deals. And so it can be done anywhere. We've got some big natural gas reps in Georgia. So even in places where it doesn't necessarily make sense, it's still happening. But our strategy as a company is to get nationwide with other services, but the mothership is energy. And when you see all this come together, we renegotiated all these contracts, and all the things that are, we're going to be a beast in this space when we've got a large trained team, and something deregulates. You will all be able to take advantage of it. Any other questions on the comp plan?
Yes, is there any state that we can't do waste in?
I'd say, James, that the all the way West Coast is tough. It's mostly recycling in those states. Okay, but outside of that, pretty much open season. And I think a lot of the western states, including where you're at, are pretty good. But going all the way west to California, Oregon, and Washington State, not so much. But the rest of the country, there's pockets pretty much everywhere. The best is probably the Southeast and the Midwest, but really we're doing some pretty good things in Pennsylvania right now. We've done some things in New Jersey, New York, right here in Georgia. Alabama's been great. So it's popping up.
Okay.
Sure. And I think one thing I'll do, guys, in fact, as we go through, the next time we have Tim Pfeiffer or Matt Bryant from Waste Tech on, we'll talk a little bit more about the geography and dig in a little bit deeper for you guys so you have some info there. If that'll be helpful. Anybody else?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Well, guys, we try to keep them with 30 minutes if we can, thereabouts. A lot of you guys have my contact information, but rick@bidpoint.co is the best way to reach me. If you've got questions generally for us at Bidpoint and want the fastest answer, admin@bidpoint.co is the best way to get it. So I want to thank you all for your time and attention today, and appreciate what you do. And we're excited about the future. I would tell you this Thursday we'll be talking more about the launch process and our PM call. And if you've been through the certification program, you should have gotten all the documents over the weekend that we had talked about. So hopefully that helped with some clarity too. And we're working towards the process of having all those documents in bidpoint.net. And we should have some other things to share with you on Friday as well as we head back into the cash discount program. So I want to thank everybody for your time and attention, and we'll look forward to talking to you real soon.
Thank you, Rick. Have a good day.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Very helpful coaching.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good job, Rick Moore. Good job, Rick Moore.
Thanks, Meister.
Thanks, Rick.
Later, guys.